Yeah.
Anywho,
Right.
we can close this off with Bradley talking about the three body problem for the first time ever.
Oh
Yeah.
boy. And what a book it was. No, I reread it, and I reread it because I really wanted to read the book that comes after this, The Dark Forest, because a lot of other people I've seen online have had similar experiences to me, where the first book in the series, Three Body Problem, they're like, frankly, I just didn't like it. But then a lot of these people are also like, I powered through, read book two, genuinely the best piece of fiction I've ever read in my life.
Wow.
And I'm like, I want it. I've always heard good things about this series. Um, and also, like, I went ahead and reread this before going into the next book, because I think you could probably read this book like 4 times in the time it would take you to read a Stormlight book. It's really short. The audiobook was like 8 hours.
Fair.
Okay.
So rereading it was really good. Brief overview, it's just, most of the book is kind of framed as like a mystery where you're getting stuff revealed through flashbacks and just stuff the character sees. Mostly what's going on is that all over the world, scientists are killing themselves in droves. Really weird stuff is happening where they're just like, I guess the laws of physics just don't exist anymore, because they're noticing really weird stuff in their experiments. And the analogy one of the scientists gives is, if I had a pool table and I lined up the cue ball and the 8 ball and I told you to hit it, sink it into the pocket, you could do it. And if you had that exact same setup and you moved that pool table anywhere else, even if it's a different pool table, if you have the exact same setup every time, you're going to sink it every time. And that's part of how science works. You set up experiments so you can get predictable results. And he's like, imagine that you hit the ball one time and it went in the pocket. You hit it the next time and the ball shot off at the speed of light and left the solar system. And then you hit it another time and the ball flew around the room like a bird and then landed in your pocket and started purring. That's essentially what is going on with just scientific experiments all around the world. People just can't make progress because just baffling shit is happening. And their scientists are just killing themselves because they're like, I don't know, fuck, I guess nothing we ever knew about the universe is correct.
So hold on, they're killing themselves from dread and not from like a supernatural thing?
So that's the thing, partially that.
Oh.
But other scientists who don't give up their research begin being tormented by they don't know. For example, our point of view character he's taking pictures and this countdown is appearing in the pictures. And every time he takes a picture, he's like, if I count the amount of seconds between picture, the countdown has gone down that many seconds. But he's like, it's weird because this isn't a digital camera. Like, it's a totally mechanical camera. This shouldn't be happening. And then he starts seeing the countdown in his eyes. And he's like, holy shit, what is happening? And basically the countdown is threatening him to stop his scientific research.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
It's really fucking cool. And basically this book is a prologue book, which is why I don't feel that bad about spoiling the end of it. This book exists entirely just to prep you for the ride that is going to be book 2. At the end of the book, you realize that the closest star system to ours, 4 light years away, has an advanced alien civilization. It's just really hard for us to detect each other because space is big and we just didn't have the capability to detect it yet. But their homeworld really sucks. It's inhospitable for life, and they've kind of spent the last however many millennia trying to either figure out how they can continue to live on their home planet or figure out how they're going to live somewhere else. And one character actually makes first contact with this alien civilization, and they tell them all about Earth. And the alien, they sent a message out to space and about just Earth and what it's like here and stuff like that. The first message they get back is, do not answer, do not answer, do not answer, do not answer. And they're like, they're like, with only one message sent out, no one is going to be able to pinpoint exactly where your planet is. But if you send another message, they will know, and they will come, and they will kill all of you. Now, this book is set against the backdrop of the Chinese Cultural Revolution. I did a big Wikipedia deep dive, but this character essentially had a very bad time during that time period in China. and they just don't have any faith in humans, and they send another message, and
Oh.
they're just like, I will help you, come get us.
Oh my god.
And I think big themes of the book is like the roles on like science and intellectualism in society, because like there's a big conversation in the book at one point where these people are discussing, what, maybe the colonialists did to, natives in America, and one person is like, well, think about it, like the Aztecs, they had brutal human sacrifice, and they're, I don't know, like I think the Europeans were more civilized than them. Can you imagine if they didn't come over and the Aztecs made a North and South America spanning civilization that was okay with sacrificing people? But then other people are arguing like, okay, well, the Europeans were more technologically advanced, but like, were they better people? Do you know some of the shit they did to them? And that's kind of like the conversation that's also going on with this alien species that at the end of the book you find out is coming to invade Earth. It's only 4 light years away, but they're going to be here in 450 years just because it takes that long. And that's the same idea. There is, it turns out, a very large global organization on Earth that in the modern day has been in communication with the aliens and is fully intent on helping them wipe out humanity just because they think we deserve it. And what's really interesting is that this organization is actually made up of like social elites and scientists and very smart people. And it turns out that the less educated and more just normal someone is, the less likely they are to be a part of that organization. And I don't know, it's just interesting to hear people from these different groups talk to each other. Like there's one scientist talking to, this police officer, and he's just like, how can you not care about like what's up there in the stars? And he's like, I just don't think about it that much. He's like, I'm just thinking about my family and my mortgage and stuff. And the scientist is like, how can you not think about this shit? And so it's just like interesting to see how those two perspectives clash throughout the book. So anyway, into the book, aliens are coming in 450 years. Everybody on the planet now knows it. And it's interesting to see reactions because there are some people who are like, okay, like everybody on Earth, we have to work together and stop them, right? And then there are some people who are like, okay, that's 450 years from now. What does that have to do with me? I'm just going to keep doing what I do. And it's really funny since I played Outer Wilds recently. The aliens live 4 light years away, but it's going to take them 450 years to get here because they're like, we can accelerate up to 1/10 the speed of light, but it takes us forever to do that. And by the time we reach that point, we have to start decelerating, which reminds me of Outer Wilds, where like if you're flying somewhere, you have to start decelerating exactly halfway through your trip, or else you're gonna crash.
How many times have I died in the sun?
So
right in there.
I'm just gonna tell you how book 2 starts. I've never been more excited to get further in a book.
Oh man.
So here's what happens in the prologue of book 2. One of the people from the organization who's in contact with the aliens and is helping them discovers that they can't lie. It turns out that they had been going over just a bunch of like information and literature about Earth, and they are like, we are just so fucking confused. We don't get it. Like, information seems inconsistent. People will say stuff that obviously isn't true. And he ends up finding out they can't lie because for us, you have your brain, which is your thinking organ, and then you can talk with your mouth, something totally separate. The organ that does their thinking and the organ that does their talking are the exact same thing. They don't make sound, they basically like emit light. And any thoughts they have are broadcasted to just anyone who can see them. And so culturally, they just don't have a concept of deception. And
oh man,
like eventually they developed like, internet long distance communication, and they're like, in a sense, like their civilization was able to kind of realize you can say stuff that isn't entirely factual through those means, but still just like culturally and their society, there just isn't a concept of lying and plotting and scheming and deception, and they can't make sense of stuff that's going on
That's
Earth.
like almost impossible to understand, that almost unbelievably like that a intelligent life form wouldn't be able to figure out deception. My brain can't even process that. So,
and it's funny because like whenever their human liaison was talking to them, they're like, oh yeah, no, well we know about your brain and your talking organ being separate things, and we just assumed that was just y'all being unevolved. And he's like, no, you are wrong. We have a huge advantage over you. This is terrible.
That's so interesting though. That's like, this is terrible. You guys can't kill us all now. Fuck. That's so weird. That is so weird.
Now, here's the advantage the aliens have. In book 1, they sent something called a Sophon to Earth. Their ship can't get there for 450 years because it's giant. It takes a long time to accelerate. But they're like, if we just sent one little particle like a proton or something, I mean, we could get that to Earth in 4 years because we can send that at the speed of light. And essentially what they did is they put, oh my god, they like unfolded this proton into like lower dimensions, and they built a computer inside of it and sent it to Earth. And that is the thing that is responsible for fucking with scientists and messing up scientific experiments. It's zooming all over the world at the speed of light and messing shit up and putting images in people's eyes and shit like that. But even worse, they can basically spy on the entire Earth at once. Every conversation had by everybody, everything on every hard drive, everything written on every piece of paper can be observed by this Sophon thing, and they are constantly sending more to Earth. And so there's a military room, and they're like, fuck, like, what do we do? Like, any move we take, they're just gonna know. And so this is the other thing that was in book 1. This is the other element at the beginning of book 2, aside from the lying thing, that made me go, holy shit, this is gonna be awesome. Their plan for combating the aliens is something called the Wall Facer Project. And they're like, if we just can't hide anything, we can't speak, we can't hide stuff on hard drives, we can't write, we can't do sign language, we can't talk using flags, any communication we have, they're going to know our plan. They can't read minds though. So they select a few people, and they're like, you are going to be the Wall Facers, you are going to come up with a plan, and it is never going to leave your brain. We're going to give you some resources from the government and the military, and any request you make, no matter how preposterous, unintuitive, ridiculous it is to everyone else on Earth, we're just going to trust you and just let you do it. And at this point, they've like freshly developed hibernation technology, so you could sleep and wake up 70 years in the future. They're like, we're going to give you access to this technology so you can implement those plans on a 450-year time span. And holy shit, it's really interesting.
Okay, so like the Wall Facers are a select group of people who will come up with a plan and enact it on their own without telling anyone what the plan is, and people are just going to follow the plan.
That's the thing. Like, people are like, we can't reasonably make any plan to combat these aliens, so you people are going to make the plans, and you're never going to tell anyone what they are. You're going to give orders, and we're just going to follow them even if they don't make sense to us.
This is such a completely different experience from the other 2 or 3 times you talked about this book, where you were so like down and mixed on it, where like I was like, oh, okay, like you.
Now, I will say
this just seems so much more interesting when you put like a enthusiastic spin on it. That sounds fascinating.
The stuff I didn't like, I still don't like. I feel like he is not very good at writing characters, which, I mean, in a book that's going to be taking place over such a long time span, maybe that makes sense because some characters are just going to come and go. But I don't know. I think I walked away from my first time reading the first book like, these are the most just golden platinum ideas anyone's ever had. I just wish a different writer was writing them. But I don't know. It's amazing book, amazing concepts. I still think, I don't know. His character writing could use some work.
Now, Bradley, I need you to do something for me.
Okay.
And you're very resistant of doing things for us, but you need to hear me out. You need to check out the Netflix adaptation and let me know if that's any good. Oh, okay, cool.
I got like 3 episodes into it.
It's cheeks.
And it's pretty cheeks. I will say,
But so's the book.
There's a police officer character, and when I was reading the book, I pictured him as this actor, and that's literally the actor they had. And I was like,
that's
shit,
pretty.
That's awesome.
Now, what if it gets good? Because they said they're adapting 2 more seasons of the show, so I'm guessing they're gonna do book 2. I don't know if there's a book 3.
Yeah, and it might. I mean,
there's book 3.
What if season 1 ends and like it gets there? You know, like because I think when you're adapting something, they're probably trying to make actual characters out of a story that has poor characters.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
And adapting that first book, right? Sorry, that like the book that is mostly set up and like hard to like appreciate. I feel like they would have to change that a lot, and maybe in book 2 and 3 they're gonna adapt it more, you know, by the book. But that would be my guess.
And I haven't totally given up on the Netflix series. It was just some parts were okay, some parts were bad. One thing that was interesting is they took the main character, who was the closest thing the book had to like an actual character that had writing.
Wow.
And they don't have him anymore, but they split him up into several different characters who are each doing like a subset of his plot line. So I don't know, it's interesting.
That's a very, very interesting change. You're very different, but okay, cool. Well, I hope this lives up to the hype because you're hyping it up, and you've gotten me interested. The audiobook is short, right?
It's 8 hours to 10.
I think listening to it at 1.5 speed, it was like 8 hours.
Okay.
So it was really, I don't know. I felt like I had, the first time through, I felt like, oh, these are probably, I just got to take my licks to get to the second book. The second time, I feel like I really liked the first book a lot more the second time around because I was a lot more conscious of the themes and, you know, which character is actually going to be important later because they might not get mentioned for 4 straight hours or something.
It's the kind of scenario that you spoiling it and like putting a structure to it would probably make it better for a first time experience, to be honest.
I think it did, honestly, and I think it would for anyone listening. But book 2, I like this book is legitimately one of the things I have seen people hype on the internet. Like, it is the best king of sci-fi. It blows your fucking mind to the point where you're worried to try it because you're like, there's no way it's going to be that good. So far, it's that good. I haven't finished it, but it's impressive.
Well, the jury's out and we will see. All right, I think that closes it for us today.